He is a two-time World Catch Wrestling Lightweight Champion. He is a British wrestling legend who has wrestled all over the world. He's a Sambo champion, a wrestling champion, and he's even done a bit of boxing. This is the Grapple of Your Eye Show, episode 54, Brett Hawthorn. Okay, welcome to the Grapple of Your Eye Show. I'm your host, Brett Summers, and my guest this week is Brett Hawthorn, a globally travelled wrestler, martial artist, boxer. He's done it all and trained with everyone. So it was an honour to have you on the show, sir. Thank you very much. Okay,
appreciate it, Brett. I like your name as well.
Yeah, cool name. This is Alfred picking me up as we go along. Right, first question. We always ask anyone who's been on the show for the first time, where did it start for you? Where did it begin for you?
It started when I was around 7 years or 8 years old. My dad has been a wrestler pretty much all his adult life. So he started a bit later on at 23 years old, and it just grew as a massive passion. And then that passion passed down to us guys. So he didn't open a small club. He had a small little club in Bradford that he'd run part-time. And without much training, he took me to my first competition down in London. So back then, they used to have a competition called the Hatfield Novices. So it was like under 2 years experience. I probably had about 3 weeks experience. I turned up. I didn't want to get on the mat. I was umming and ahhing, and my dad basically gave me a kick up the backside and says, "Get on the mat, you're wrestling." I jumped on the mat and I performed pretty well. So I won my first match in like a quick fashion. And immediately I got the bug then. I was like, right, I love this. And then I had 3 more matches and won them all. So I came home with a nice shiny gold medal and a bug for wrestling. And that stuck with me pretty much till now. So more than 26, 27 years later, I'm still active with wrestling, especially in the coaching department.
What was it then? Because you're sitting there, so basically you're a second generation wrestler. So yeah. When you started that, is there any kind of, I mean, when you're a little kid, I guess, and sort of, let's say 7, it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of wrestling, but as you're sort of growing into it, and like you say, you've got the bug for it now, because I mean, there is a point where there's all sorts of clubs and things where as a kid you go along and it's fun and you see your friends type thing. But when was that sort of bit where you was like, okay, this could be something, this is something I might be good at, or I'm going to get competitive at this? And obviously being second generation, or, is that something, is there a weight there that you're like,
Yeah, well, a couple of things. Number one, I fell in love with it pretty early. Like you said, you meet your friends, it's fun. It's a tough sport, which I enjoyed. I really enjoyed the tough aspect of it, like pushing yourself and working hard and doing things that are difficult. I enjoyed that aspect of the wrestling, so I fell in love with it pretty easily. But on the other hand as well, I had a dad who's a very passionate wrestler, and I kind of had no choice. As a young'un, it was you have to turn up to training until you're 16. He said that when you get older, you can do what you want, but until you're 16, you've got to train. So it was a mixture, really, a mixture of both.
How did you find as that developed then? So you started going, you've done a couple of competitions. How are you sort of finding it? Because obviously as you're getting older, I imagine the competitions are getting a bit tougher, big voice and all that sort of thing. What was that like sort of growing up with that? What sort of challenges did you face? Because I mean, people listening to this now might have want to be putting their kids into wrestling, or might be sort of on that journey themselves. What did you find as you're getting older? Obviously, people are getting bigger and stronger and stuff. What did you do to cope with that?
So, like I said, the first competition I won, so I was on top of the moon. I love this wrestling. It's easy. little did I know that I wasn't going to win another competition for about 2 years. So I won a couple of local and small competitions, and I went to my first British around a year after wrestling, and I got destroyed in the final. So I got finals, I think it was. So I got to the semi-finals about 8, 9 years old. Got beat, had a little sulk in the changing room, and my dad says, "Don't worry, he'll come back. He'll get this." And then I came back the next year, and the same thing happened. And I came back the next year, and the same thing happened. And it was just kind of that constant thing in the back of my ear from my dad is, "Don't worry, you'll get there. You'll get there. You'll get there. Once you beat him, you'll do it." And eventually, with the hard work and just consistently training and turning up, I did manage to start beating these guys and winning these British titles, and then progressing then from not just British titles to international titles. And that's a whole set of other stories. I can go into that if you want.
I see on the show before, he talked about that sort of, that accomplishment of, right, I've won a British Championship and that. Then suddenly the international scene comes along, and then just when you think you climb one mountain, the next one appears. I mean, was that similar for you?
100%. So, like I said, it took me 3 years to win the British Nationals. I eventually won it, and I was on a pretty good roll, and my wrestling started to improve, my confidence, my discipline, everything. Years. So I was 13 and the other lad was 14, and we're training along with like the 15, 16 to 18-year-old lads. And I got invited to my first international competition. So I got selected to go to my first international when I was 13 in Latvia, which back then was called the Kunzins Cup, and it was quite a large tournament, especially for the Baltic regions. You had Estonia, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, Russia, like the St. Petersburg, Moscow teams, things like that. And I remember telling my dad, because I was on this run with my training, with my confidence, with my winning competitions, I was saying to my dad, I was like, "Yeah, I think I'll win this, Dad. I think I'll do pretty well." And my dad says, "Don't think about it too much." He said, "And don't say no to any of the other wrestlers." He said, just concentrate on yourself, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't think much of it. I carried on training. We flew over there with the team, weighed in, first match, picked up, slammed straight to my back and pinned within about 20 seconds. And then I got a second match, and I got beat in that match as well. And pretty much all the team, barring a few guys, we all just got demolished, basically. And that was kind of a wake-up call of, all right, so this is the level in the UK, and this is the level outside of the UK.
Was it a physical thing, or was it like a technique thing? Were they doing things? Different areas kind of have little things that they're good at. What was it?
I think it's the structure of the programs abroad. So obviously Latvia, they were all former USSR or Soviet Union programs. So the structure's in place. It's put into schools. So I've been, like, since that time, I went back and travelled and wrestled all over the world. But at that point, it was just the difference in training. So we've been at a level where in the UK, at that point, you might train 2-3 times a week, if you're lucky. Them guys are training every day, Monday to Friday after school with a top-class coach and top-class competition. So it was just a bit of a level difference between us guys and them, which is now actually being caught up between that part of the world and us. But yeah, and then from there it was, right, that's my next goal now. So how can I work my way up to winning these competitions? So that just meant extra training, not just staying in Bradford, start travelling. So we're going to Manchester. We actually got a Russian coach at that point. When I turned 14, we got a Russian coach who was the national coach, and he was coaching full-time in Manchester. So that gave me an opportunity to go and travel and learn under him then as well, and travel to different areas of the UK and just increase my wrestling knowledge and just increase my overall training routine.
I mean, as you got older, this then led to you, if I'm right, you then got picked to train in America. Was it Collegiate that sort of came in?
Yeah.
Plucked you and that. What was that like? Because you don't often hear of American colleges and universities looking at England for wrestling talent, because obviously it's so embedded over those, like you say, it's in their system over there from primary school upwards, I think. So what made them get an eye on you then? What drew your attention? Drew their attention even?
So I continued to wrestle for Team GB. We carried on going at these different competitions, and slowly but surely, with the same process of winning a national title, I started to win international titles or medaling pretty much every time then. So we'd go to Latvia, Estonia, Austria, Helsinki, and once you start tallying these medals up, your confidence increases, your level increases. and just that routine increases. And then when I was, I think I was either 16 or 7, no, I was 17, we went on holiday to Florida. And at the time we went on holiday, the state championships was over there as well. I reckon my dad planned that accordingly. so yeah, pretty much. So we landed there. The 2 days later, we was wrestling in the state championships, freestyle and Greco-Roman state championships. So it works a little bit different in America. They have the folk style season, which runs from October to March time. And then after that, it's kind of like an off season, or if you're a decent wrestler, you do freestyle and Greco-Roman.
Yeah.
And we went in the summer, which was July, and I wrestled in the state championships. And I got through to the finals. So I beat a couple of good guys, and there was a guy who was getting scouted in the finals by a college recruiter. And I didn't win it, but I give the guy a good match. So it were a 50-50 match. He beat me really through ill preparation by me. I wasn't fit enough at the time. So I got beat, but I caught the eye of a college recruiter who then came over and gave his details, saying, if you fancy trying out for a college team, why don't you get in touch? So I got home. I was working at the time. I was still had an obligation to train with GB and Team Wales at this point. And about a year later, I gave this guy a call, and he got me out to America for a tryout in Kentucky at a NAIA school, which was one of the best programs in NAIA at the time. It was a number 3 program. So I went out, same as before, went to the training, got demolished in training, just like I have pretty much all the stages through. But I showed that I was willing to fight till the last breath, basically. And the coach liked that, and he invited me on the team. So 3 months later, I flew out and started my training in America then under the Campbellsville University.
Well, because you were what, 17, 18 at this point, and then
I was out. So when I did the States, I was 17 going 18, and then when I flew out, I was 19, or just going 19.
So you're 19. You're now moving to America, basically on your own.
Yeah.
And
by
college people, in what wrestling aside, that must be quite a step. Like just to sort of. How was that? That mentally, moving anyway is a pain in the arse and a mental challenge. But that moving to the other side of the world on your own, it's like, what was that like for your viewpoint?
It's hard to explain, but at that point in my life, nothing else mattered but wrestling. So to me, this would a dream come true. Family, I know it sounds bad, but family were the last thing on my mind. All I cared about was getting there, wrestling, and being. At my mind at the time, being a world champion, that's all that mattered. Nothing else mattered, and I was just excited and just ready for the challenge. So I couldn't wait, honestly.
What was it like? What were your impressions? Because when you got there, I mean, I'm still amazed at the American sort of college and university system where they have turnouts to their sporting activities that sort of some Premier League and Championship teams don't, but they're only like the college team or the university team. They're not the city teams. The support for the sport there is amazing. I mean, there's still wrestling magazines and that for freestyle and that documentary college stuff. In the time where print's dead, they're still selling millions. What was it like going from somewhere where like wrestling is something that you might find a book in a shop on it once in a while at that point, to then suddenly, you're in a thing where wrestling is sort of everywhere and it's respected and there's money involved and training. What was that? It must have been quite a culture shock.
So this was the biggest progression I ever made in wrestling. And I was there less than 2 years, but the level I jumped from there to what level I got to were just insane. I actually got to live and train all over the world. So I went to Ukraine. I'd spent 3 months doing a training camp in Ukraine, went to Moldova, went to parts of Russia. And I honestly can't say that anywhere were better than America for the training, just the overall development of wrestling. Yeah. For me, it was the best place I got to train at. Just because, as you say, it's a culture. You're part of a team. I've never really, wrestling's an individual sport. And it very much feels that way, especially in England. Even though you're travelling, you might be travelling with your club team, you might be travelling with your national team. But at the end of the day, it's an individual sport and you're going to win for yourself. But when I got to America, I realized, like, actually, maybe it is a team sport, even though we're competing by yourselves. The whole university is behind you. So your college lecturers, your tutors, they get behind you. They'll make your schedule easier just so you can compete and try win for this college. Then you've got your coaches, you've got your athletic administrators, your physiotherapists. Then you've got your teammates. Then you've got your basketball players, your football. And it's kind of one big community that wants to see everybody progress. And that were the biggest difference. And then the training is better. It's like just on another level. Like, I think for the UK to ever catch up to that, I don't think we ever could catch up now. But to do that, that's going to take 20 years of specific planning, because it's in schools. So it's embedded them from being 5 years old up to 24. If you're a wrestler, you've got a program. It's free. You can go do your high school program, your middle school program. If you're good enough, you get to go to college and wrestle in college, which is another level. But yeah, unbelievable experience, unbelievable training, the structure, just everything about it. If you want to be go on, sorry.
I was going to say, what was in their structure then? What was your typical day as a college wrestler? You know, what did it involve? What were the routines? What were you put through?
So I'll give you a typical. So it runs in 3 stages as well. So you have a pre-season. So like I said, America usually runs from October to March, with February, March being the pinnacle. That's their national championships. Then you've got the off-season. So you've got the pre-season, which usually starts when I landed. So you land to start your college career in August. And your pre-season runs from August till October. So then 8 weeks, the structure of that is purely building this and building your engine. So basically conditioning. You don't really even do much wrestling, but they want to see if you've got what it takes. So we started out with 62 wrestlers. And by the end of the season, we had 24. So pretty much 1/3 of the wrestlers left or went to a different school or pretty much quit wrestling. And that were a lot to do with the pre-season. It break you down mentally and physically. And one of my good friends who became a top-class coach, he drops like a knowledge bomb to me, and it just stuck with me for the rest of my life. He says, what percentage would you say is mental and what percentage would you say is physical in wrestling? And you hear everyone say, oh, it's 90% mental, is it? But personally, I'd say, all right, maybe like 50-50. You've got about 50% mental skill, 50% physical skill. And he put, all right then, so why do you train 100% physical? And then like that opened my eyes. I thought, right, so that's why these guys are doing well. So this whole, even though you're training the physical part, it's all about mental preparation. So you do crazy things. Like we did this campus loop. So that was a 1 mile loop, and then you get back to the wrestling room. So this was the first week we got there. We got into the room, met everybody, met the coach, and it's like, right guys, first session. We do 1 campus loop, and then when you get back, you do 1 rope climb and 10 pull-ups. You have to do this 10 times. So this is literally your first training session. You do a 10-mile run, 100 pull-ups, 10 20-meter rope climbs. All right, everyone's loving it because we're wanting to impress and show off what we've got. Next day, we come in, wrestling matches, guys. Non-stop wrestling matches, like 1 hour straight matches, not no 5-minute rounds or 2-minute rounds. It was 1 hour straight. And when you look back at like now, I understand. All right, they're trying to break you down mentally to build you back up. And that's pretty much the basics of a pre-season. Then when you get into your season, the structure starts to improve on skill development and match tactics. So you had strength and conditioning 3 times a week. That was at 5:30 Monday, 5:30 in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then you did your school, had your dinner, etc. Then 3 o'clock till 5:30, so 2.5 hours is your wrestling practice. And each wrestling practice looked different. So, for example, Monday might be a flow day. So we'll go in and just flow on your own techniques, drill your best takedowns. Tuesdays with technique Tuesday, so we'd break down a specific position, maybe like a high crotch, a sweep single, a back take, and you'd break down that position and you'd work on 1 or 2 techniques for that full lesson. Wednesdays was live day, so you went in, you knew that Wednesdays is your hard day. You have a hard morning with strength and conditioning, and then on the night you're having a hard wrestle offs. So you might get 10 rounds, 1.5 hour of straight wrestling. And then Thursday and Friday started tapering, ready for competition on a Saturday. And then the off season, that's the third stage. That's all about improving on your skills and just building overall strength. So it was a lot of weight training. Like we were training weights 4 or 5 times a week and just building on the skills, not as much conditioning. But yeah, just how they had the program were top notch, honestly, top notch.
Is it like them with consent then with the competitions? Because I mean, people in this country, when they think competitions, it's a few hours drive somewhere where you wrestle for 5 minutes and then you come back again. Half the time the travel's longer than the time you're on the mat. But no, with these American college competitions, these are like teams. Am I right? Yeah, it's like big teams against other teams, and these things are hyped as well. I mean, it's a college thing, isn't it? What was that like? Because that's from what I've seen, really, it almost reminds me of like football. Saying, you have these people there, coaches, people going with you to support it and watch it. And what was that like compared to sort of you're wandering in with your mum and dad on a mat over here, and you might know a few people there, and suddenly you've got like a room.
So they're called duels usually. So they pretty much through the season they run weekly. You'll have one if you're a starter. So if you get the number 1 spot for your team, you'll pretty much have a duel every single week until the nationals. They might slow down towards the nationals. And like you said, duels are hyped. They're big. So it doesn't matter if it was a football. This is the team aspect of it again in America. It doesn't matter if you're on the football team, if you're on the basketball team, if you're on the volleyball team. If your university is playing a home duel, you turn up. So you pack that stadium out. The best day were Thursdays because that was volleyball, women's volleyball, and that had a big following. So there used to be like 10,000 students watching these volleyball games. But the same with the wrestling. So it's either Friday nights or Saturday days, and you'd have a team come up from a local region or maybe a couple of hours away, and you'd duel off, and you'd get your crowd would be there. You'd have the cheerleading team there. So the cheerleaders would do how you see, basically what you see on the TV is what you get, really. But just that atmosphere. And like I said, it's a team aspect. So how it works in America is if you get a pin, you'll get the top amount of points. If you get a tech fall, which is technical superiority, you get the second most points. If you get a majority decision, so for example, 14-6, you get more points, and a draw gives you a certain amount of points, and a loss gives you 0 points. And as a team, you've got to collectively get the highest amount of points to win the duel. So sometimes they'll come down to a heavyweight match where you might need a pin to win this, or you might need a tech fall to win this. And I've never been to somewhere where the crowd will get behind wrestlers like this. Like I said, wrestlers are solitary sport. You kind of go, get your hand raised, and you go off the mat. In America, you've got the cheerleader screaming on the side, you've got all the team, you've got all the parents, the coaches, the staff, the students, and everyone's behind you, and they want to see your team win. So just an unbelievable experience, and I got to experience it a couple of times, and that were the best wrestling times of my life by far.
How did you progress through that? Because am I right that you actually went all American, didn't you? As they say.
In the junior nationals. So over there, I never did it in the folk style. I never got picked. I should have been picked the next year, but I did it in the junior nationals freestyle.
What was that like? Because again, that goes. Well, actually, explain the All American thing because some people might not understand.
So this is I'll explain the folk style first. So in folk style, you have regions. So our region was the Mid-South Conference, and that's like the Mid-South states. So Kentucky, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, them 5-6 states. Then you'll have like a Southern Conference, which is Florida, North Carolina, blah, blah, blah. Northern states, New York, Pennsylvania. Then you start getting your Western states. The first thing, you need to come the top 3 in your conference. So first of all, you need to be the best on your team. Then you need to be top 3 in your conference. Then you go to a bigger tournament where you need to become top 3. And then the best of all these certain areas and states go to the national finals. So it's a 32-man bracket. To get an All-American status, you need to make it to the blood rounds, which means you need to win 2 matches first and then progress to the top 8. And how they do it in America is like you get a true first, a true second, true third, true fourth. Nowadays, it's a little bit different in freestyle. If you make it to the semi-finals, automatically you're in for a 3rd or 5th place. They don't do 4th place anymore. It's joint double bronze or double 5th. Whereas in America, if you lose, you can still fight your way back. Doesn't matter if you lose to the winner. You could lose to anybody, but you can fight your way back up to the top 3 ranking. But the whole point of it is the best 8 American wrestlers. If you come in the top 8, you are an All-American wrestler. And you'll stand on a podium with 8 places, which you don't really see in many other sports. It's usually 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. But like I said, in wrestling in America, it's top 8. You're an All-American.
What is then, for the amount that you're doing? I mean, because a lot of people go 3 times a week and are sore. Like you're doing this like every day. What was the physicality of that like, as well as the fact that you're studying as well? You've got you're doing that, plus you've got to do whatever it is you're studying and normal life in the meantime. What was that sort of like?
Like I said, I loved wrestling that much that this was just a dream come true for me. Unless you love wrestling, you can never stick with wrestling because it's such a hard sport. It's so physical. It'll break you mentally. It'll break you physically. You're going to get injured. 100%. If you wrestle long enough, you will get injured. Where it's going to hold you out of competition and training for a certain amount of time. But if you love it that much, that you'll never turn away because, like I said, you just catch that bug and that's it. Then you're hooked for life, which is what happened to me. But in terms of training and I did things there that I could never do now. Even like I've got a good mentality for training and pushing, but physically I wouldn't be able to do what I did then. You talk. I can just, for example, one day we did a hill sprint day. So we're talking about a coach here who's a top level coach. He built programs from nothing to being the top 3 in America. He was a Division 1 wrestler himself, Frankie James. That's a shout out to who's started a new program. Anyway, it took us for a hill sprint day. So he had a big pickup truck. And just like you see in America, we all jumped on the back. We've got 10 wrestlers on the back of this pickup. We've got other cars coming down. He got the speakers. You talk 30-degree heat in the Kentucky hills. He's put the speakers on in the truck. He's blasting. And then we did hill sprint for a 2-hour hill sprint session where we did buddy cut. You get people on your back run up. You do bear crawls up. You do bunny hops up, single leg jumps up, then sprint offs. And I'm not lying when I say that's the hardest session I've ever done. And I've trained hard. I've trained all over the world. That's the hardest session I've ever done in my life. We got back to the school and it were free meals. So if you were a part of the team, you had free dinners. So we all went to the canteen and not one person could eat food for about 1 hour. All we had was about 50 drinks. So we had drink. Bottles of water, bottles of Lucozade, Gatorade, everything you could think of was in front of us, but not one bit of food. And just in terms of physicality, you were pretty much dead. Every day your body were dead, but you just got on with it and you pushed through it. And by the end of it, you really was a beast, man. You were a beast.
It sounds exhausting thinking about it.
Yeah.
So where did you go from that then? Because you've got this top level training, competition, and like I said, this program sounds amazing. But obviously, you get to a point where college comes to an end. What's the next step for you?
Well, it looked a little bit different for me, unfortunately, because I did my first year, and I did really well. Like I said, I got to an All-American status in a freestyle, but I was just starting to progress with the folk style and with the team, and I was starting to do really well. And one of the coaches, so he was a grad assistant coach, he said, not to me, he said to one of the guys, he said, if Brett sticks with this, he'll be a national champion, 100%. And it just boosted my confidence, and I was like, right, I am going to do this. And unfortunately, when I went back the next year, it's kind of a long story. I don't want to go too much into it because it doesn't look too good. But I got in some trouble and I lost my scholarship. Unfortunately, so I had to come home. But in terms of a typical wrestler, you do college, and that's the end then. That's the pinnacle. Unless you're the top of the top where you can go freestyle and make a living going to the Olympics and Worlds. Most Americans, they resign to the fact that you wrestle in middle school, you wrestle in high school, you wrestle in college, you get a degree, and then you go on to your profession, whatever degree you got, you go on to professions, so teachers, solicitors, physios, which is, obviously, I feel like that's a better system anyway.
That's good. But what about yourself then? So you've done that, you've come back home now. Is it back to the old gym, or are you looking at other things? Or
no, yeah, that was kind of like, cause like I said, in my mind, I wanted to be a world champion. That's my mind. Like, it might have been a crazy dream, but that was my dream. I wanted to be a world champion, and then I lost the scholarship. I had to come home, and that's when everything changed. And I'd like snapped to reality. But like, right, I'm not going to make, because once you come back from a training facility like that, where everything's paid for, and you're with the best of the best, and you come back to England and you got to train with like the local lads, and you might be travelling to Manchester an hour and back. You're never going to make it. Realistically, I'm just being honest. You have to travel to be a champion, isn't it? Yeah, you have to travel, and I kind of knew that were it then. So for a couple of months, I just worked, and basically that's when I got into boxing. So it took my distraction, because I was just so upset with wrestling. I thought, nah, I'll never wrestle again now. I'm done. So but at the same time, I trained all my life, and I didn't just want to sit at home on a couch and become a couch potato. So I was like, right, what else can I do? And that's when I found boxing. And that's when I got into the boxing.
How did you find the initial bit of boxing? I never boxed much. I did a bit of like little introductory thing of kickboxing overseas. Yeah, so how is it that you found boxing? I mean, I've done a little bit of like kickboxing stuff now, but I just didn't like having my hands covered, because as a grappler, I just found it really, really weird having my hands. Yeah, the punching bit and the exercise side of it was great, and I ended up doing it more for like the cardio thing, but I just could never cope with it. It just felt weird, because I've always done like judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, so having my hands covered was weird. For someone like yourself who's been really at that level, how did you find that with boxing?
At first, it was difficult. I loved the training, and at the time, I just literally, like I said, I'd just come back from America a few months, and I was super fit. I was probably in the best physical shape of my life. I was fit, strong, fast. I had every good physical attribute. It was just learning a new sport, and I had to learn fast, because I got really lucky. And well, to be fair, it's probably like a lot of boxing gyms. Boxing's big in England. If you can go to pretty much any amateur boxing gym, and you're going to find a good boxer, someone who's on a top level. And luckily at the time, I started with Platinum Dave Nelson. He had like 6 or 7 guys who were all at a good level. We had Dan and Tetley, who were like a 3-4 time national champion. Exactly the same weight as me. We had another lad, Nathan Kaywood. He'd been a schoolboy and junior national champion, same weight. We had other guys who were all working their way up. And there were like 6 or 7 guys who were all around the same weight. So I got thrown in the deep end, because I was a fit, strong lad who'd come from a combat sport background. I got thrown in with a sparring within 2 weeks, and I think I learned really quick, because if not, you're going home with a nice headache and a few bruises on your face. So yeah, I had to learn really quick, but just it was like a full new sport, and because I had no pressure, like wrestling towards the back end, I felt the pressure, because the problem is, when you get better, the higher you climb up that ladder, the more pressure you've got. So then everyone's expecting a win, whereas the boxing, it were a brand new sport. There were just no pressure, and I loved it. I loved that part of it. But in terms of how I found it, it came pretty natural to me. I picked it up quickly.
As you progress, won a few challenges and things. So, I mean, what was it like then? You know, as I say, so going from competing in grappling, what was the same? What was different to stepping in a boxing ring? Because obviously, it's grapplers to striker or whatever, as they like to do it in sort of UFC terms, whatever. You know, was there a different plan in your head? Was there a different approach when you're in a match, or is it are you still trying to lead them down a road to get them somewhere? You know, what was that like?
I understand what you're saying. So wrestling, don't get me wrong, everyone's a wrestler or a boxer or a grappler or a striker. They have this argument, and I've done both. Like wrestling, obviously to a higher level, but I've boxed some of the best lads in Britain. And for me, there is differences. Physically, nothing will beat wrestling. I've done it all. Nothing will never beat wrestling. For physicality, for pure strength, speed, just full athleticism, nothing can beat wrestling. But mentally, I think you've got to be tougher to do striking, just because of the crowd. So, like you said, unless you're in America, wrestling, you go on the mat. No one, you got a few people watching your team and a couple of people, and your opponents get your hand raised. You're off the mat. That's it. When you're boxing, you're usually selling tickets, or it's a sold out crowd. You've got people who are having a few drinks, and you've got people supporting the guy you're boxing, people supporting you. And you don't want to be going down in that match. That's the last thing you like. It's inevitable to happen at some point. If you box long enough, you are going to get hurt. But you don't want to be that person to go down on that day. So you've got to have a different mindset to it. You've got to go in as if you're ready to. It sounds bad, but you've got to go in ready to go to war, basically. And that was a different mindset. Whereas wrestling, I always wrestle best when I go in to perform. Like I don't want going into this battle. I was going to perform and practice this technique and just be as smooth as possible. Whereas the boxing was more about I'm going here and I'm giving it my all till I get less hand raised. So it was a little bit different mentality.
Yeah, definitely. So what was then? So you're doing the boxing. That's going well. You're moving up. You're winning tournaments, competitions, things like that. When does sort of the grappling side start to come back into it? Because there's a bit of Sambo as well, and then obviously later on you get into the catch wrestling as well. Where does that? What drew you back to the grappling?
So like I think nowadays it's a really different scene because there's a lot of avenues to make it as a combat athlete. Whereas when I was younger, it was like I said, wrestling was the main focus, and the World Championship was the goal. That was it. Nothing else. Olympic Championship, that was the goal. Nothing else really mattered. And when I got into the boxing, I never seen it as, I want to try become professional or I want to try win this title. It was just I'm enjoying it. I'm pretty good at it. I might as well have a few bouts and see how I do. But there were no long-term goal with it. But I never really there were no dream of becoming professional or dream of winning this title or that title. They were more just I enjoy it. I'm good and I'll keep doing it. And then I had a few bouts and I stopped then after about 4 or 5 years or 6 years. I think I had 6 years, plenty of bouts, won a couple of different titles and box cups and things like that. And then I just kind of got out of it. I had a family, a young daughter, and my son came along then. So it was more just about being a family man and work. And I had this bug to wrestle again. So my dad carried on a club with Team Falukazan. And I just had a little bit of a comeback. So after 6 years of no wrestling, like not jumping on the mat, not even roll, not doing anything, I was about 27 and I had a little comeback. I thought, you know what, I'll see how I do. So I had a boxing bout coming up and the British Wrestling or the English Wrestling Championships was coming up as well. And I thought, well, I'm fit. I hadn't wrestled in a long time, but I bet I can still move and still wrestle. And I jumped on the mat and I was doing pretty well in training. And then I went to the English and I got beat first round. I put up a decent match, but I got beat to the lad who actually went on to win it. I lost that match and I just went home. I didn't even go back for the recharge match. I just thought, friggin' hell, as if I'm losing. Like, why am I losing? And it humbled me actually because I thought, well, you've been away that long. You can't just come back and beat guys who are dedicating their life like I used to do it. So it put a bit more fire in my belly and I carried on training and I came back and had a few more. And within 4 or 5 months, that's when I started getting my mojo back. And I went to the British Nationals and there were like a little bit of, there's no hard feelings by this or anything like that, but there was a bit of controversy. I got to the semi-final, I fought my way up and at the time there were a lad who's very similar story to me, but he went to Canada, got a scholarship. I knew a brilliant wrestler, really good wrestler, won a lot of Commonwealth Games medalists, won a lot of tournaments. And I had a layoff, but I knew I was back. And I think in wrestling, you come to your prime at 27, 28, 21, you're still young. and I felt good even with the layoff. And I got to the semi-finals, and I was winning the match, and I got disqualified through what they came back and said after that were their mistake. But like I said, fair play. There's no hard feelings, and it's not something I think about, in that way. Just that were the kind of the nail in coffin though with wrestling. I just thought, yeah, I'm not going to do now. But I can still compete and have a little bit of fun, and I can still wrestle to a good level even though I've been off the mat that long. And that's just because of all the hard work I did as a kid. I trained really hard from being 10 years old to 20 years old. That even now, I might not wrestle for 6 months. I can jump on a mat and I can still hang with pretty much anybody. And that's just from years of hard work as a kid. And just that mindset, it doesn't leave you. So, but in terms of wrestling, I knew that my days were done. It was just more of a comeback to see if I still had it, really. And then that's when I got into the Sambo came up. I'd never trained Sambo in my life, but I'd boxed for a lot of years and I'd wrestled for a lot of years. So I went to the Sambo tournament and I won that pretty comfortably. I won a few Sambo tournaments, and that, like I said, same again. Years of hard work as a kid just paid off to this day. And then the catch wrestling came along. Never done catch wrestling, but the style of catch really suits my style of wrestling. And that's something else I wanted to get onto. Actually, I was speaking to Andrea from Snake Pit, and we were talking about the styles of wrestling and the forgotten styles. So when we was younger, if you ever watch any freestyle wrestlers nowadays, brilliant takedowns, and as soon as it goes down to the ground, there's pretty much two moves that get seen, which is a gut wrench or a waist roll or a leg lace, and that's the be all and end all of freestyle wrestling. But when we were younger, we only got taught by our coaches that have got taught by their coaches, and that style were more burst to catch, which were pins and turns. So your Nelsons, your West Points, your double wrist locks, your arm bars. That's how I got brought. That's how my dad taught me wrestling. That's why Finley Marshall's done well, because that's how he got taught wrestling. And I feel like that's a forgotten art, really, especially in the UK. There's no top and bottom game in wrestling, which I try to teach, because if you can turn somebody or put on not a submission but a hold, then you're a complete wrestler. Whereas if you don't know these, I feel like you're missing a little percentage that can boost your wrestling. So yeah, I did the catch. I won the World Championships, and then I came back the second time. I won it again, and then I've been wanting to make a comeback, but the last 2 years I've just been mega busy. I'm a teacher, so I've had all that, and as you said, you know.
I feel it.
don't let you hear people saying, "Oh, but look at all the holidays you get. You need them holidays. It's a stressful job." So I teach full time. I've got 3 kids, and I've opened a wrestling academy. So realistically, I'm too busy to train. And then number 2, I've been getting injured a lot on my time back. But I'm not done. I am going to make a comeback again next year. Because, like I said, I want to get that belt for the 3rd time in the catch, and I want to also do the World Masters in Sambo and wrestling. I want to win a world title. I always said my goal was to win a world title, and I'm going to win that world title in the freestyle and the Sambo, all being well in 2026. So that's the plan.
Good targets. Now, what about then? You talked about the coaching side of it, and you've recently opened the Bradford Wrestling Academy. What led you to sort of the coaching side of it to begin with? And then also, you've now sort of done what a lot of people never do, is you've put your money where your mouth is, and you opened out your own academy. So first of all, sort of what led you to coaching anyway? And then, why start your own place? What are you doing that no one else is?
So, I feel like anybody who's wrestled, you become a coach as well in general, because you get given responsibilities that the higher up, the better wrestlers in a club or jiu-jitsu or whatever you do, you'll be tasked with like helping out a little bit in general. So I've kind of been coaching since a kid. Like I might help my dad do an adults class. I might lead a warm-up. I might have done this. I might have done that. But when my kind of career had finished and I'd had that comeback, I just, like I said, wrestling for me, I've done it that long now that I'll do this till I'm done. So like this will be me for the rest of my life. I love wrestling. I'll never not wrestle. So I've always got to be around it. and I started coaching about 6 years ago at Underhooks MMA gym. There's a really good guy there who runs a club, and I started coaching for him on a part-time basis. This happened just before COVID, and I did once a week, and I just built the club up to a big standard where we had 40 wrestlers pretty much every single week, 40, 50 wrestlers on the mat every week, getting titles, a couple of them winning big matches, a couple of them losing big matches, stuff like that. But I've been around it. Then I got asked to be part of the regional coaching squad for the national team for British wrestling. I started coaching for them a little bit, but that's when I started my PGCE at the time, and I was too busy. I had too much on, so I had to knock back my duty from there. And then I fully qualified. I continued coaching at Underhooks, and now I've finished my ECT, or pretty much finished. I've got my last year of my ECT, and I've got a little bit more time now. Them first 3 years of teaching wiped me out, but now I've got my routine. I kind of know what Monday brings. I know what Tuesday brings, so I feel like I've got the energy to open a club, and also my kids are at an age where I want them to wrestle, so that were the main driving factor. I wanted to let them have the opportunity to wrestle. So I opened up Bradford Wrestling Academy. And as well, I've been asked to be the head of all the regions of the UK coaching. So that starts in 2026. So it's a part-time role where I'm not the head coach of the North, South, anything like that. But I oversee each region. So I'll speak to the coaches. I might deliver a session. I kind of say what goals we should be meeting this year, what competitions we should be attending, what we need to be working on, things like that. So it's more of a managerial role. Yeah, that's it really.
But if someone listens to this and they want to come to the Bradford Wrestling Academy, what are you offering? What have you got? Is it just the kids? Is it the adult? What's your curriculum sort of thing? What is it that you do? And why are you different? Why are you different to anyone else?
Yeah, I don't never try to sound big-headed or anything like that. Yeah. But I feel like, and there is a lot of good wrestling coaches. There's a good wrestling coach up and down the country. Kids who have never wrestled and parents who have never seen it, once they come to this club, the feedback I've had has just been amazing. You go to a lot of clubs, and the difference with a football club or a gymnastics club or a swimming, they don't get that overall complete fundamental movement skills. Whereas wrestling, like I said, any sport, I've done a lot of different sports. To be a top level athlete, I feel like wrestling's the number one, because it gives you everything. You've got to be flexible, you've got to be fast, you've got to be fit, you've got to be able to decision make under a short time. And my class is literally run. I just copy every good coach I've ever seen. I copy and I take their style. So I've had my dad, who's probably one of the best mental coaches you'll ever meet in your life. That guy, if there were Spartans nowadays, he'd have been a Spartan leader. Because there's no mercy from my dad. It's like, if you want to be a champion, there's no shortcut basically. And he's a really good motivator and encourager. But on the same term, he wasn't the best technical coach. He didn't start till later on, and he only learned, like I said, what he got taught. He didn't have the opportunities I've had to go to all these different coaches. So I had my dad as a good mental coach and a motivator, which I use. Then I got Nikolai, who was our national coach for Great Britain, but the Russian, who also had a really good technical approach. Then I went to Ukraine, and I spent time with Orist and Rostislav, who are now national coaches in Ukraine. One of them's a junior coach, one of them's a female coach. But you're talking about some of the best coaches in the world. And I got to train under them for 6 months, so I'll use some of their structure. Then I got to train in America for 2 years under one of the best coaches in America, and I've used all their different styles and I've brought it to my own. And I feel like the club now, just how we progress. I've seen, so I've been open 5 weeks this week, or 6 weeks, this week. And the progression in 6 weeks, I know that the structure and the system I've got in play, I think it's going to be hard to beat. Within 2 years, wrestling takes time. Within 2 years, we'll be out there as one of the best clubs, and that's a fact.
So, if anyone listening to this wants to get hold of you or contact you for it, what's the best way they can get hold of you for either booking yourself for seminars or for the Bradford Wrestling Academy?
So Instagram is probably the best bet. I'm not the best at getting back to everybody. I'm, like I said, I'm pretty busy. I do get back to people, but it might take me a few days. But Instagram's the best. So either Brett Hawthorn on Instagram or Bradford Wrestling Academy. If you drop us on a message on there, then I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
In the show notes as well, then. So I'll put the links in the notes for you. It'll be on there. Yeah, well, thank you for taking the time today out of your very busy schedule to talk about all this. It's been fascinating, and there's lots of different routes you could go. And definitely have to get you back on some other different specific things because there's so much that you've done and everything. I know it's really good. I mean, is there anything else that you'd like to add? About wrestling in general, people trying it, doing it.
That's the main thing. So what I'm trying to do is get kids to stay. Like I said, I didn't win a British title for two or 3 years. I lost that nationals every time. Eventually, I won it. I lost the internationals for a couple of years. I eventually won that. If you want to be good at anything, you need to stay in the sport over the long term. Don't just see it as, if I'm not a champion this year, this time next year, I'm finished. You've got to fall in love with the sport. And the second thing is, come and try it out first. You'll see it's not just grabbing someone and slamming them down to the floor. There's a lot more to it. Just a specific wrestling warm-up. You're going to get more in a warm-up than you'll do going to a CrossFit gym or the High Rocks gym or just going to a regular gym. If you've done a wrestling warm-up, you know about it. The skill you learn, wrestling's a life skill as well. It's not just something that you learn to play on a weekend. It's a thing that can help you out in massive situations. If you're a police officer, it can help with your control. If you're a security guard, if just in general life, wrestling will enhance your life in general. So try it out, see what you think, and hopefully fall in love with it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Well, thank you, Brett, for joining us today. This has been the Grapple of Your Eye show, and I have been your host, Brett Summers. If you want to keep up to date with everything we're doing, you can visit us at the grappleofyoureye.com, where you can see all our past episodes and links to all our social medias and everything like that. New episodes drop every Thursday at 7 a.m. UK time, and you can watch those on YouTube on our links. You can also listen to your podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Audible, Spotify, and everywhere that they're available. If you're on any of those, please give us a share, rate, review us, like us, follow us, and all that stuff, because it really does make a big difference to us as we try and spread the gospel of grappling across the world. So all those things really do make a difference. If you're on YouTube, you can visit our community area where we have lots of polls and discussions and things like that on different topics. So it'd be great to see you participating on there. And also, we are on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and all the different social medias that are out there. Now, we'll be back next week with another guest, but in the meantime, stay safe and stay on the mats.